Peace never lasts in the Kingdom of Hyrule. We have 19 games in the series, telling stories of war over their thousands of years of history, and several remasters, remakes, and spin-offs. Once, after a long stretch of prosperity, strange and deadly disasters started happening across the land. Concerned for the people's safety, the royal family checks the ancient seal to the sacred realm, where a mysterious evil resides. But the report says that everything is normal. Soon after, a mysterious red-robed wizard gains notoriety by using a powerful magic to quench a deadly fire. His name was Aghanim. So thankful was the king that he appointed him to be chief advisor and heir to the 7 sages. But slowly, that thanks turned to a powerful darkness that parasitically fed on the king until there was nothing left but bone. Unrest and dread permeate throughout the kingdom. The wizard's influence increases until, eventually, Aghanim rules from the throne. The facade is broken, evil reigns over Hyrule. But it's not enough that he has power over the nation. He's actively seeking something more. As he is now heir to the 7 sages, the royal family's secrets about the seal have been revealed to him. Aghanim knows that he needs to gather the 7 and bring their magic together. But the 7 died a long time ago, and so he concocts a plan to use their descendants, the 7 maidens, as the magic still echoes in their blood. With the resources of a king at his disposal, he finds each one, and sacrifices 6 for his mission. On the precipice of ultimate victory, we meet the 7th maiden. It's the night of her sacrifice. Princess Zelda sits imprisoned beneath her home, Hyrule Castle, grieving what has become of this land. The people are suffering. Her family has been eliminated, and now she waits for her own sacrifice in a cold, wet cell guarded by the men sworn to protect her. The same men that watched her grow up and kept her safe. In desperation, she cries out, pleading for someone, anyone, who can undo this nightmare. This is such a perfect opening to this game. It's brief but rich with magic and possibility. Hyrule is introduced, the Triforce is established as a coveted relic of great power delivered straight from the gods. The royal family are beneficent rulers, and Aghanim is a terrifying force of manipulative and mystical power. We hear of the 7 sages and talk about Zelda's destiny, but nothing about Link. Link is wordlessly introduced as a dude with an uncle, and soon, the responsibility of saving their world. He grew up beneath the shadows of this very castle, a kid watching from the outside. When we meet him, he's sound asleep, dreaming of that same princess. In his sleep, she tells him that she's been captured and needs rescue from the castle dungeon. In a fright, Link shakes awake only to see his uncle dressed and ready for battle. Uncle tells Link that he has to go and not to follow him. What he doesn't realize is that Link had the same dream. After grabbing the lantern and breaking these pots, you leave Link's house and set off for the tutorial dungeon. The soldiers guarding the paths speak to Link with familiarity in their voice. Even still, the closer you get to Aghanim, the colder and more murderous the reaction you get from the guards. One even tells you that he knows his time is running out. He's seen what's happened to his brothers in arms, and he knows the inevitable is coming. Aghanim is creeping into their minds, driving them to do what he wants. They've become drones to be thrown at the hero. Link makes his way through the castle and finds Zelda being guarded by the best the Hyrule Castle Guard has to offer. In a fight of distance management and clever use of the boomerang, Link slays the mighty warrior and frees Zelda from impending doom. They slip out through a secret exit, and after a quick meeting, Link is sent on his adventure. First, in a mission that establishes a Zelda trope, he has to collect 3 special pendants that will prove his worthiness to wield the fabled Master Sword, the only weapon strong enough to destroy Aghanim and bring peace back to Hyrule. Each pendant reflects an attribute of the Triforce, the gods that created it, and the main characters of the series. First up, acquiring the Pendant of Courage from the mysterious Eastern Palace. Link is never the wisest or most powerful. He's just a kid who's been thrust into an unwinnable situation, and right now, the only thing he can do is move forward in the face of evil. He has to brave a harrowing dungeon filled with monsters, traps, and a squad of 6 animated suits of armor that aren't very happy to see him. At this point, all he has is his courage. But that's enough. To get the next pendant, he has to wander the deserts alone, fight horrors rising from the sinking sands, and eventually face off with a giant flying worm. It's not just his skills in combat and survivability being tested either. He has to solve ancient mysteries with dead languages just to enter the Desert Palace. His problem solving and judgment are being put to the test. On his way to acquire the final pendant, he saves a mysterious old man from getting lost in a monster-infested pitch-black cave. There's no person he's unwilling to help, even as every evil creature in the country is bearing down on him. On the climb up the mountain, he dodges falling boulders and near-indestructible monsters. When he finally approaches the summit, he stumbles onto a strange, glowing patch of land. After reluctantly stepping in, the world around him melts away and reforms as a slightly off reflection of what was there before. A portal to the dark world. The terrain has reformed. Monsters are weirder than normal, and instead of his own flesh and blood, a pink bunny stands in Link's boots. After a bit of wandering, Link asks this friendly pink ball guy about the world around him. He says that people who step into this plane are transformed into a creature befitting of what's in their heart. Link is an unimpressive and powerless pink bunny. Of course, there's a MacGuffin to dispel this curse so that he can bring his goodies into the dark world, but the message is received loud and clear. Link is fundamentally harmless. Upon leaving the Dark World for the first time, he makes his way up the final dungeon, the sprawling Tower of Hera. Here he captures the Moon Pearl and has a pitched battle with the monster Moldorm over a huge chasm. One wrong move, and Link takes a nasty tumble. Once the creature has fallen, he collects the final pendant and proves that he has what it takes to carry the Master Sword. He is the hero legend spoke of. This unassuming boy. This harmless pink bunny. He's the only person worthy to carry the blade of evil's bane. Suddenly, Zelda reaches out in a fright. Soldiers have discovered their hiding place and are closing in. All his efforts are unraveling. We don't make it in time. The loyal sage is dead and Zelda has been kidnapped. Once again, we turn our attention to Hyrule Castle and set off to save the princess. Countless knights stand between Link and Zelda, but Master Sword in hand, forward he goes. He marches through castle halls, dodging more traps and enemies than he's yet encountered. He goes room to room until finally he finds the secret chamber where Aghanim's experiments and rituals are conducted. Zelda lies completely at his mercy, and he was waiting for Link. He wanted him to see what was about to happen. Unknown to Link, Aghanim feels an especially spiteful hatred towards the boy. Generations of familiar contempt bubbling over as he performs the magic. Zelda's helpless body being torn from the world in a violent display of horrible sorcery. Before he's even had a chance to really break the sword in, he faces down his mystical opponent. This is the worst possible matchup for Link. Like the catastrophes that befell Hyrule before his arrival, nothing of this world seems to harm the wizard. No weapons or magic have an effect, not even a direct attack from the Master Sword. He's attained near invulnerability. The only thing that seems to make him flinch is knocking his magic back at him. And it's here that we see the self-harming nature of evil in this cosmic game of tennis. Finally, Link lands the deciding blow. But in his cowardice, unable to face the one who bested him, Aghanim teleports Link away, dropping him in the Dark World. Alone. There he looks over Hyrule, or what was Hyrule, at the evil that has permeated every inch of the land. The skies are dark and the clouds look like they're on fire. This is a hostile place. Any comfort Link found in the light world is now malformed. Across realms, Sahasrahla pleads with Link to find the 7 maidens who were sacrificed to break the seal between worlds. They've been trapped in crystals all across the land, hidden in dangerous and well-guarded dungeons. Cunningly, Aghanim repurposed the magic seal he broke to protect himself. Where it once protected the innocent from evil trapped in the dark world, it now protects that same evil from the innocent. Once again, only the magic of the maidens can release the seal, allowing the hero to stop this wizard once and for all. What follows from here is the meat of the game. If I recap that in the same way, I would spend a long time repeating myself. It's basically the first part where you gather the pendants, but with more dungeons. You explore the overworld to uncover secrets and complete optional content, fight bad guys in a dungeon that you have to puzzle your way into, solve more puzzles inside the dungeon, dodge traps, fight a mini-boss, get a big key, get an item, and finally, slay the dungeon boss. If you played other Zeldas, this structure will look familiar. What sets the various games apart in this series is where each title spends its time on the different spokes of that structure. Some have more optional content, some have more dungeons, exploration, dialogue, etc. But this is the one that took the lessons of the previous 2 games and solidified the Zelda format. The more epic sense of adventure of the first game with the more story focus of the second game, combined together to make this Zelda title that 31 years later holds up extremely well. At its best, A Link to the Past combines all the pieces of gameplay into a seamless experience. It moves at your pace and has plenty of side content hidden away waiting to be found. If you want to get lost exploring the world, unlocking every single upgrade, go for it. It's mostly pretty good. While not every dungeon or idea was perfect, there are far more hits than misses. And for a game this old, that's impressive. You meet tons of characters along the way, good guys, bad guys, all of that. Hyrule and the Dark World are well populated, with all sorts of freaks to help out. The bosses in the Dark World received an evil facelift from the bosses in Hyrule too. Where the first dungeon boss in Hyrule were the 6 Armos Knights, the first boss in the Dark World is the terrifying Helmassar King. The second dungeon boss in Hyrule was a big sandy worm. Nice. But the second boss in the Dark World is a flying jellyfish with a giant veiny eyeball. You later fight a demon thief who uses his decapitated head as a projectile weapon, more eyeball horror with Vitreous, who has many giant veiny eyeballs encased in goo, and a 3-headed turtle made out of earth, fire, and ice. Once you stop the giant rampaging turtle, you head to the Tower of Ganon, the Dark World version of the Tower of Hera. You have now saved every maiden from her crystal prison. Zelda tells you that Ganon is inside, plotting his trip to the Light World. After breaking his seal protecting the spire, Link starts his climb. The end of the tale is finally in sight. Hyrule will see justice brought to the King of Demons. Once he finally makes his way through the boss door, we see Aghanim already waiting for the rematch. This fight happens in a room fashioned after the sacrificial chambers hidden deep within Hyrule Castle. But just like their first clash, Link again gets the better of the wizard. Even though Aghanim is trickier and more capable now, Link is better armed and far more experienced this time. The Dark Wizard falls into a heap on the floor. Then, in a flash, Ganon's spirit rises from Aghanim's body, and you see now why Zelda said that he was waiting on you. He's been freed. He quickly transforms into a bat and beelines to the Pyramid of Power to make his swift escape to the Light World, using the Triforce. Link follows, calling on his bird friend to fly him over, where the final battle awaits. But this, too, is a rematch. You wouldn't know it playing this in 1991, but long before the events of A Link to the Past, this great king of demons, Ganon, slew Link's past self, the fabled Hero of Time, atop Hyrule Castle. The only way for this game to exist means that in a world created by the time-traveling in Ocarina of Time, Link dies by Ganon's sword. He fails. This is the backstory that we didn't get in the intro. While all the other major characters got their blurb of introduction, the entire series of games is the depiction of Link's unassuming, gentle heroism. He's just a kid. He's far less powerful than Ganon, but by never backing down to his evil, he becomes the paragon of courage. and Ganon's greatest threat. Last time they met, Link lost. But being courageous doesn't mean that you always win. It means that you never give up. That you come back for a round 2, even when you lost the first one so profoundly. Link faces down this creature who has sat in his hatred for hundreds of years, the very same evil that struck him down centuries before. Except, this time, circumstances might be even more dire. Link is in Ganon's domain. He's without allies and trapped with this beast in the basement of his very own pyramid. Ganon wields a power so devastating that it changed the very landscape of the world around him. The Triforce amplified his lust for power so profoundly that it turned the pots into golden skulls, symbols of wealth and death. The people in this land turned to literal monsters and became single-mindedly obsessed with making sure they got theirs. The friendly Kakariko village was even renamed the Village of Outcasts and became openly hostile to anyone without money. The heart of the evil in Ganon is his lust for power. If the Zeldas that came after A Link to the Past all follow its basic structure but with differing degrees of focus, something common throughout, whether there's a Ganon or a Zelda or not, is the series' idea of virtue. Wisdom and power can be bestowed on people through study, conquest, heritage, or other means. You can be born into power. You can increase wisdom through experience, but courage is so much simpler. It's doing the right thing, no matter the scale of the problem. Moving forward regardless of the setback. It's within every person's reach, but it cannot be given. In the same way, it can't be taken, not even through death. There's no gray morality here. They're not really interested in telling stories of anti-heroes and redeemable villains. Greed is demonized as a social sickness. For as much as we love games that show the more complicated side of humanity, it's nice to have a series that always makes its ethics clear without being verbose or preachy. To have heroes that are commendable and villains to root against. Now you know this story. After a truly epic battle utilizing all the skills and weapons Link has earned until now, Ganon falls. Link reclaims the Triforce for good and undoes all the evil wrought by the Demon King. The whole way through, from the opening cutscene to the end credits, I felt a sense of gratitude for this series, and I have this game to thank for that. Over 3 decades after it initially released, it's not really doing anything you haven't seen if you've played other Zeldas or any of the excellent games that were inspired by it, but it's such a pure expression of what these games are. Good versus evil, a grand adventure, the reward of exploration and helping others. A Link to the Past made me see, again, how much this is a series I can be proud to be a fan of. Each one that comes out stops the entire games industry in its tracks as everyone gets back into this world for another 40 to 80 hours. The eternal battle over the fate of Hyrule exists to bring people together and give them inspiration to courageously make their way through their own lives. I feel like I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop on this franchise and finally see it become bad corporate trash like so many other stories in pop culture. But for now, The Legend of Zelda is still some of the best in all of video games.